we're going to begin our fourth question for our candidates. Just so you're aware, Tom, you'll be answering first, and then Mayra is second. Then we have Joe third, then Karen, and then our final response will come from Vicky. And so the question is this. The COVID-19 pandemic and the business closures have had a big impact on employment and income, causing many people to seek assistance for food, housing, and other expenses. As demand for some services has gone up, tax revenues have declined. In what areas do you see opportunities to reduce spending, and where do you see opportunities to increase? Include some estimate of how much money you're talking about for any of your ideas. And so once again, Tom, you're the first to answer this question for us.
Thank you, Eric. Obviously, COVID has complicated everything. People have expectations of government and they want us to come through for them. And so far, we're coming through. We're being able to continue to do all the things we've been doing. But we're looking at a shortfall currently estimated at between $1 and $1.5 million. Now, we were able to recover half of that through employee concessions. We went to all of our bargaining units and asked for 5% reductions. We've been largely successful in that effort, and that's taken us to almost $500,000. I've been part of the council that increased the reserve commitment to 20%, and we're now about 27% of our annual budget we actually hold in reserve. So we're able to eat away at some of that and still keep the services we currently have. That, of course, is not a sustainable strategy if the problem continues indefinitely. So we're looking carefully at everything we're doing. We're looking at potentially new ways of doing things. We're certainly using technology wherever we can. I'm sorry that one of my colleagues here does not feel that contracting is a good answer. It's proven to be a very successful answer, because even though you can still pay a living wage without having the benefit structure that we have in public employment. And literally, life is choices. You do what you do at the expense of what you could have been doing. We wanted to get our library open. That's why I advocate Measure R, by the way. 31% of our library is supported by Measure R, that quarter-cent sales tax, plus other youth-related services, many of which were casualties of the 2008 Great Recession. So, we have to work very hard. Economics drives the operation of government just as it does in each of our families. So you can only spend what you've got. We don't get to print money. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And we're going to move on to our next respondent, which is the same question. It's going to Mayra. And just so everyone knows, since we're 4 minutes from the scheduled break, we're going to go ahead and get this full round of answers in and then start our break at the conclusion of this. And just to let all of our listeners know, in case you tuned in late, if you have a question that hasn't been asked yet, you've heard our 4 questions, please go to the Q&A portion at the bottom of your screen, click on that and send us your question. And then after the break, we're going to be asking the candidates your question. So Mayra, your question, go ahead.
Well, the pandemic has changed all of our lives in one way or another and has impacted a lot of our community members and businesses. This has also been a topic of discussion in my district. I want to commend the current council and also the work that the city staff did to hold some of those increases that save money. That's important. We see that throughout the business community, locally and regionally, that folks are taking a look at some of those labor expenses that tend to be on the higher end of the cost of the budget structure. That is something that is noted and appreciated. And I think that's something that we're going to have to take a look at, as this pandemic has no end that we know of right now. I think using technology to ensure that when there's an opportunity to improve or do something more effectively, we owe it to our community to explore that. This is city services are no different than any other service that we enjoy and we need as residents of this community. So technology should be always vetted to ensure that we're doing things in the most effective manner. As far as meeting the needs of our community members, there's a lot of resources out there at the county and state level, and even at the federal level. However, a lot of that aid is very cumbersome to apply for. I recently was speaking to a local community business owner, and she was explaining to me that the requirements for getting a lot of this aid are very difficult, and a lot of these small business owners don't have the staff or necessarily access to a lot of the resources available to even apply. I think as a city, we can provide some assistance and help make these processes easier to navigate for our businesses and community members. I appreciate having that rainy day fund. That's nearly 30%. However, I want to make sure that we look at, what are some of the services or improvements that we're putting off, because I found that sometimes making near-term decisions about specifically investments. Thank you.
Yeah, and I do apologize for cutting off mid-sentence.
It's okay.
All right, and so Joe, it is your question.
All right, thank you. With COVID, it's a global issue, a national issue, obviously a state and local one. So we've had businesses shut down, and then we've also seen a couple businesses come in recently. Just thinking of the Main Street Lounge just opening up. I could see where people are thinking about whether to jump in a business or not. There's people unfortunately losing businesses, and there's people probably thinking about it. For instance, my grandpa, he's been out of business since March. He owns the bar on Main Street, La Fogata. He's just chomping at the bit to open. So we had to work with the county to really look at our business owners as, potential victims of this global pandemic. And so with that in mind, thinking about how Woodland, the city, can lead our businesses as an example of where they can get the resources, where the city can actually, sit down with the banks in here in town and kind of streamline and make it easier for businesses to come in, as well as residents to get loans, for that matter. And for such a big issue, it's going to take the leadership of the council to address these issues. Right now, people are looking to our leaders to figure out, when is it okay to go outside? When can we eat? Where can we eat? And so with businesses being open 20% right now, capacity, there's still a couple businesses that haven't even opened back up because of that danger. And so I think they're also thinking about the customers and making sure that nobody gets sick. But I'd really like to start saving money on wasteful contracts, low bids that we ended up having to go back and get a rebid to fix the first bid. So I'd really like to cut back on wasteful spending. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, let me read the question again. And we have Karen and then Vicky answering the same question. The question is this: the COVID-19 pandemic and the business closures have had a big impact on employment and income, causing many people to seek assistance for food, housing, and other expenses. As demand for some services has gone up, tax revenues have declined. In what areas do you see opportunities to reduce spending, and where do you see opportunities to increase? Include some estimate of how much money you're talking about for any of your ideas. Karen?
Thank you. So I think, first of all, it's important to talk about managing the pandemic. I'm very in favor of looking to community organizing and building partnerships with our existing community-based organizations in order to leverage all the resources that we possibly can. In addition to our eviction moratorium, I favor a no rent increase ordinance for the duration of COVID-19. I believe that we can create additional affordable childcare through community organizing and partner with our schools to create weekend food packages for hungry families. I think it's really important to assist businesses by supporting their efforts to increase business. They've done a lot of building of outdoor dining, which I think is fabulous. I'm interested in seeing that become something permanent in our downtown. I think that it's really important to involve all of our stakeholders, both our community and our businesses, in whatever decisions are made. Make sure that we get a lot of input from them. I think we need to look at exploring partnerships, as I mentioned before, also grants, to leverage, again, as many of our resources as we possibly can. And, you know, this is one of the reasons why I favor a downtown transformation, is to really bring in that business to our downtown. So thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, you're gonna bring us home, Vicky, the last respondent to our final question that was made in advance. Go ahead, Vicky.
Well, it is definitely a time that COVID has impacted everything, and our city has had that impact, where it takes a community to make a difference. They say it takes a village to raise a child, and it's going to take our community to make a difference and to come together to recover from COVID. So I believe that all our departments in the city have taken attempted to make a 5% decrease in their spending and try to eliminate as much as possible without affecting services to our residents. I think that's important, that they're all working to try to find a way to spend less. The reserve, I realize, is a little over 26%, as Tom said, almost 27%, which is about $3 million, that allows the city to perhaps help local businesses or local residents as necessary to deal with this emergency, which is why it was created. That reserve is to help us in an economic downturn, which definitely COVID has created an economic downturn for our residents and for our business owners. So I think that that's a resource that we have. And also we have Measure R, which is on the ballot, that provides residents an opportunity to give a little every time you go and spend. It gives us an opportunity to make an impact in youth services and public safety, in our library services. Those are the things that we value. Those are the things that we have to invest in, and know that if we invest a little bit, it profits everyone greatly. So I think if we work together and find other resources that are available through the state and through the county, that we can all work together to come through in the end, just as the city did with the economic downturn of 2008 and through 2010. So I think our city has been wise in its management of its budget, and I think that we'll come out ahead as long as we work together as a community.
Thank you, Vicky.
Thank you.
All right, and that brings us to the conclusion of the first round of questions. And just so everyone knows, if you're interested in the next half, the questions are coming from the audience. We already have a few that have come through. We'll do our best to get through as many questions as possible. And so we're going to take a 2-minute break. And so, of course, go ahead and go to the concessions or what you need to do. If you want to practice at home answering any of our questions, you're going to have 2 minutes for this break to answer, so you can feel what it's like to be a candidate. And so when we return, we're going to get back to the audience portion questions and a new order of respondents. So thank you, and we'll see you in a couple minutes.